Hi, I'm going to talk through a teaching strategy that I think works really well in my classroom, and it's called the hot air balloon disaster. And this teaching strategy is brilliant at getting students to understand the relative importance of different individuals in the past. It's quite silly, but it works really well. So, there's a scenario, and it's important that you understand the scenario and that you sell the scenario to your students. And the scenario is pretty simple, and it's highly fictional. Firstly, there is a hot air balloon which is full of famous historical individuals. So you can have individuals from any period, you can have them from multiple periods, you can have them all with one theme, but importantly, there is a hot air balloon filled with famous historical individuals. And the second bit of the scenario is that their engine is broken. So their hot air balloon is going to plummet to Earth and kill all of those historical individuals unless they do something about it. Now, the thing that they're going to do is throw out one person at a time, and they're going to throw out the least important first, and so the hot air balloon can only safely land with one individual in it. So the whole point of this activity is to get students to think about who is the most important and who is the least important. And quite darkly, who would they throw out of a hot air balloon first? Now, these are some ways that I've used it in my classroom. At the end of the year, each year, I pick the 10 most important individuals that we've looked at. And we do a revision activity with these 10 individuals. So here's one that I did in my classroom. All I did, very simply, was pick out the 10 most important people that we'd done that year. So this one's Henry VIII. This lady here is a suffragette, so she fought for voting rights. This is Winston Churchill, who arguably helped to win the Second World War. And all the I give the students these 10 images, these 10 faces, and I tell them the scenario that you've just been told there about the hot air balloon. I say that these 10 individuals are in a hot air balloon and that they need to be thrown out one by one, leaving only the most important to survive. Is the following: all the students have to draw a hot air balloon in the top right hand corner or the top left hand corner of their piece of paper, and then one by one those individuals are thrown out of the hot air balloon. Now, this scenario here is actually about the history of medicine, and in this scenario this student has chose to throw out poor old Mary Seacole first, and then we've got different characters all the way up to the point up here where we've got Kine and Florey, who invented penicillin, as the best and most important individuals in the balloon. Now, obviously, as with any history, there's not really a right or wrong answer. It's about the historical thinking, and this involves an awful lot of historical thinking, because deciding who gets thrown out first, who gets kept in the balloon, is really, really difficult, because what they're doing, the students, is weighing up who's more important and who's least important. And as you can see, really importantly in this scenario as well, each student or each character is justifying why they've been thrown out where they have. So this is the student recording their historical thinking, explaining why that character has got the position they have on the page. Here's another example. This one with a little bit more colour, but you can see a very different result. The same characters, different result. In this scenario, this student decided to save Louis Pasteur, as they decided that Louis Pasteur was the most important, although poor old Mary Seacole has been thrown out first again. Really simple strategy just to get students to think about relative importance, and it will work with any year group and any topic. This is done with my year 10s who are 14 years old, but it would work with any other topic and any year group. You can also take this to another level as well. With my A-level students, so these are 18-year-old students just before we're going off to university, we study A-level Russia, and we study Russia in the 20th century, and I've done this a little bit differently. And with my A-level students, we did this as wrestling. So we did it in 3 themes. So rather than a balloon, very similar again, I provided little faces, so you can see. and I said that the students had to imagine that there was a wrestling match between these three people, these three leaders, Brezhnev, Khrushchev and Stalin, and then in each of the themes they had to decide who would win the wrestling match and stand on the top, or who would lose the wrestling match and stand on the bottom. All of these scenarios are very silly, but what they do is really get your students to have a lot of historical thinking, and that's why I think they're a really good strategy that you can use in the classroom.